babe.
Hey.
I wanted to record this episode as like a midpoint of our season, like the podcast season. But then I realized how many episodes we've had this season. How many do you think we've had?
3?
Wow.
Am I right?
You are right.
Oh.
So if you only
my hot take.
If you only wanted to do 6 episodes this season,
we're halfway there.
But if you wanted to do 9, like I do, we're not quite there. What if we broke up the season into trimesters?
Like
a
we're
baby.
having a baby?
Okay. Yeah. Okay, so...
No, you were tricking me into 9. I did not agree to that.
I think we have it recorded that you did agree to that. So, but like it was all gonna align perfectly because it also corresponds with like the end of this new season approach, you know, sort of team coach approach that we have been doing with our operations team. Yeah, the end of our quarter.
Yeah.
So anyway, let's pretend this is the middle of the season, and then I will surprise you with 3 bonus episodes in October.
Because you always get what you want with podcasting.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, we have...
He basically just told me we have to do a podcast today. And I have no idea what we're talking about.
And you corrected me and said...
I did. I said, you want to do a podcast today.
I think deep down you like it. Okay, but that is maybe the jumping off point. So we actually don't have to talk as long today because we're also going to include our conversation on the Daily Grind podcast with Kelly Johnson at the end of this. So, gosh, that was recorded way back. Like there are people that record podcasts
months in advance. We always do it on the exact deadline.
Yeah, we have 6 hours and 6 minutes to get this published.
So kudos to Kelly for planning.
Yeah. So anyway, so she recorded that conversation. I think it was back in January, February, and then it just dropped in May. So we'll include that, the tail end of this. But then, yeah, as far as what's sort of current with us and maybe been helpful, hopefully, is this kind of new approach that we're taking of really, instead of just going from project to project to project and at a type of breakneck pace without built-in reflection and rest, we've moved to more of like a quarterly season, and the season ends next Tuesday, and we've already sort of felt that end of season energy, and we had a good hike today, and
that was the best hike we've ever had. As soon as we were done hiking, I got my phone out and like texted.
You had your phone out while we were hiking.
I texted Zach all the things that we talked about and then did them all today, and it was great.
Yeah, it was kind of weird. We're actually considering engaging with a consultant that would maybe help to give you some areas of focus as a leader and some accountability, because it can be a little tricky to have me hold you accountable to things.
That does not work.
Right. Well, and obviously I don't.
I'd be like, Zach, you don't know what you're talking about.
Right. And I definitely don't do well with you trying to hold me accountable to things either. So
it doesn't work either way.
However, on the hike today, a lot of the things that I was kind of like challenging you on, you were like, yeah, I agree. Let's do it.
Yeah, it was like, hey, you need to set more structures in your schedule. And so like I set up so many meetings today, like recurring meetings that I'm going to have every week, check-ins with people. And it just made me feel good to know that instead of just letting my days kind of like free flow and react to whatever
which fire you're going to put out
is the most, urgent at the time, that I was going to kind of plan ahead.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll do the podcast a few days ahead of time. We could put it on the calendar.
Oh, that would be
now that
a sign.
Now that I'm in the mood today.
Yeah, putting things on the calendar, and actually, I guess we'll find out. Okay, so next episode we will report back if we actually adhered to the calendar.
Yes.
Well, I think, at least for me, what sort of gets unlocked with this sort of limited term, limited time frame season approach is like there is an end in sight. It's not just some sort of like perpetual this is how we're going to do things. It's never going to end. I'm exhausted. There's no light at the end of the tunnel. It's like, no, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. And we are going to intentionally pause.
Yeah, I haven't quite learned how to. I mean, during this very quarter, I worked 64 days in a row. So, as
Are we
far
still
as
counting?
like, no, I took one day off last Wednesday, so I reset.
But you didn't, I don't even know how you count that because you still worked that day. I mean, you like didn't like.
I only dropped something off at the shop. I didn't actually like stay at the shop.
Yeah.
So I counted that as a day off. I did do payroll at home, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But I'm still counting it.
But even that is something that in this upcoming season, we've made a decision to. You've made a decision to hand off a duty that you've had since like day one, before day one.
Yeah, I've done all of our books from the get-go, and it's just getting too challenging to be both the CEO, the CFO, the director of operations, and so I just realized, I mean, mostly because I was like grouchy because I was just working so much that this is not sustainable, and this is not how I want to own a business.
Yeah.
Like I still pushed myself and made it through, but like this isn't the lifestyle that I want to have, where I just never take days off and never do anything fun. And it was like, I think I said this the other day, it was like once the kids went off to college, it was like I threw myself even more into working.
Yeah.
And it was like I already worked really hard, so like now it's like at a crazy level. And I'm like trying to reflect, am I doing this because I just want to be distracted from the fact that it's like a little bit more lonely now?
Hey. I'm just kidding.
Or, you know, what my motivation is for, you know, working every single day and then like staying up late working, getting up early working.
Yeah, well, I mean, but even last night, like I had an event at 6:45 that got done at like 8:20. And I come home thinking you'll be like so relieved that I'm home by 8:30, and you were still working at the office
same location
upstairs.
And you didn't even know I was there.
Yeah, I was like, gosh, it's dark in here. I wonder how she's able to, you know, stay awake. And then I checked your location, and you were still working.
Yeah. So I think I told you that I'm doing this coffee business owner group with different owners.
Are you actually talking to the audience now?
I guess I kind of was. That was weird.
I can go away.
Disregard you, Zach.
It's fine.
But I'm in this, group, and it's been really helpful for me. And then they like challenged me to kind of give up some of my control that I have over things like our, just doing bookkeeping tasks that someone else could help me with. And it's always just like a little bit of like our thing where we try to do things so we don't have to pay someone else to do it. And it's silly.
Oh, yeah. Well, we talked last time about all the dumb construction things that I spent way too much time and energy on and did poorly.
Yeah.
And we have like really great skilled people around us that are saying like, hey, we can do this and we might be able to do it better.
I know. We got that TV for the drive-thru in today. And I was immediately like, we are not trying to install this again because we tried to do the last one ourselves, and it was a disaster.
It was, and I immediately texted our electrician, and we've got something on the calendar.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
We have learned a few things. Well, so the thing that I thought would be interesting to talk about was sort of the end of the season and then the beginning of the next season. So the idea is you take a breath. You reflect. We've got a meeting with our team on Tuesday to kind of let them weigh in on what worked, what didn't work, like really open up a space to provide, feedback. Like sometimes we talk about the shit sandwich, to where like you have to tell somebody something nice, that's the bread, and then you tell them something that might be painful to hear or hurtful to hear or negative.
Mayonnaise.
You say that's the mayonnaise?
Yes.
You want to call it the mayonnaise sandwich instead of what I said? And then you close it with something nice, and so they hopefully hear all of it and are able to then process it better by having two positive
They
things said to
hopefully
them.
hear that you care about them as a person, as an employee, but that something needs to
Some sort of improvement.
happen.
Yeah. Well, I am hopeful. I mean, we are the oldest people on our team. We are the founders, and it probably is hard for our team sometimes to provide us with, candid feedback or criticism. I mean, it happens, but I think you have to set the right type of container for it to happen.
You have to bring the margaritas.
Yeah, that can sometimes help. But I do think we've gotten better at trusting these people who didn't start the company but have really learned to love it and have played a large role in creating and maintaining what it is, and therefore have a very valid perspective on what we could do better and what we need to focus on next.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're going to get some good information from our post-mortem.
Yeah.
I said that's what we were calling it to someone today, and they're like, what? That's so morbid. And I was like, well, it's not really morbid. It's just like a way to kind of dissect how the quarter went.
Yeah, I'm not sure where the terminology came from, but yeah, it is a little morbid, and maybe we could update it into something a little more.
I like it for some reason.
Okay, well, you're a dark person, but that's what we can talk about maybe next time is how that meeting went.
What if we set up a microphone in the meeting, and it's just like recording the whole meeting, and then people are just like a fly on the wall?
I bet there are some people that would be kind of interested in that, but
it would be raw and candid.
I think that both of our podcast listeners would probably have better things to do at that time. But we could see. We could let AI record it and tell us what did you hear, and then summarize it.
Yeah.
That might be fun. Okay, so dear listeners, we're going to try and figure out how to do something like that to capture what this post-mortem meeting feels like and sounds like, and what sort of comes from it. Anything you mentioned, some of the meetings you set forward, a new sort of training approach. You're excited about that?
Yeah, we're just working on some background stuff with our training team, and we have, as we do every season, when the graduation happens, we have a lot of new staff right now, so just getting them up to speed.
Yeah, and then I'm working on the honeymoon coffee ritual. I'm excited about that. That's
yeah, it's going to be really cool.
There's some cool things happening with that. Maybe that'll be focused of an episode here again soon in the future. So, if you are intrigued, actually, I guess we can announce this: the honeymooncoffeeritual.com website is officially up and running, and we have the monthly coffee ritual subscription available. So if you are a newlywed or you know someone who is newly married and wants to sort of combine coffee with their love story, we have an experience, and we've gotten really great feedback about it, and we're excited to expand it further.
That was a great tagline, babe.
Thanks, babe.
You came up with that on the fly. If you want coffee to be part of your love story.
Every once in a while I can pull something out. So, all right, so we'll take a quick break and then bring you back with the Daily Grind podcast with Kelly Johnson, Jessica Parsons, and yours truly,
Z-Ride.
I love you.
Love you.
What's up, everybody? I'm Kelly Johnson, the host of the Daily Grind podcast, the official podcast of the Kelly Johnson Foundation. The goal of our foundation is to make a difference and share and support future leaders. Tune in today's episode and follow our podcast on Spotify and Apple to stay up to date with all the content and events. Links are in the description. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Daily Grind. My name is Kelly Johnson, your fun and friendly host. We're in episode 15 of season 7, the very best one yet. I'll keep the introduction short because we have not one but two special guests on today's podcast. I'd like to introduce you Zac and Jessica Parsons. They're the founders of Honeymoon Coffee Company, a coffee shop originally founded in 2016 in Evansville, Indiana. Zac and Jessica have gone from business partners with dreams of opening their own coffee shop to a happy marriage and 4 successful locations. Their vision of Honeymoon is a place where you can be inspired to chase your dreams and passions with your own spirit, creativity, and energy. So welcome to the show, Zac and Jessica.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kelly. Appreciate
You made that sound so clean, the journey to get here.
Yeah, no bumps at all on the road.
Yeah, exactly. We have our grinds going on. We have the ebbs and flows and the ups and downs, and a coffee or two to fuel our grind there. So excited to have you both on today's show. We have the pleasure to have both the founders on the Daily Grind podcast. So yeah, to get to brew now, I guess we could say we'll probably throw in some coffee puns here and there, but maybe slide a mug or two your way. Can you both briefly tell a little bit about yourself and your daily grind?
Sure. Yeah. Well, our daily grind does start with coffee. Actually, it kind of starts the night before. So our coffee making ritual at the house is I will pre-grind the coffee in a fellow Ode grinder and load it into our Wi-Fi enabled drip machine. And when she wakes up the next morning, she just grabs her smartphone and flips it on. She's a little bit more of an early riser. And why don't you take it from there, babe?
Yeah, I'm Jessica Parsons, and we've gotten pretty simple with our own coffee routine. It used to be that I would get up and do a pour over. Now I'm like, I'm just hitting the button and we're getting this day started.
But the cool thing is, and she's not going to bring it up, I guess, is that she will then bring the coffee to me. So we have this ritual sort of set up to where I am trying to serve her by grinding and preparing the coffee the night before. And then she serves me and brings me coffee in bed, which sounds like kind of weird to say. She does not feed me grapes, but she does bring coffee in bed to help me get going in the morning.
Yes, it's a little harder to get him going.
Oh my gosh, that's great. Yeah, talk about the routine, talk about team effort there when it comes to starting our day off strong. Yes, I think our listeners on our show, obviously, our big question of the day, I said in the intro, but love to learn more and love for our audience tuning today's episode as well, sharing your story of how Honeymoon Coffee, the journey that you started. Can you throw us back and then fast forward us to today? Mm-hmm.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I think it kind of started with a dream that Jessica had. And she had been kind of thinking about opening up a coffee shop probably around, 2014, 2015 was when it kind of came to mind. And then one day she took a picture of a building and she just kind of struck her. I don't know why I'm trying to tell the story. This is your dream. This is your vision. So February.
Because I'll tell it really short.
And I took the picture. Yeah. So yes, you wanna jump in here and then I'll pick up wherever.
Yeah, my sister lives on the West Coast, and I feel like I had been traveling and seeing kind of the West Coast coffee shop vibe and looked around our Midwestern city and saw that we just didn't have anything that felt like that. And that there was really a hole in our community of a kind of a fun community space to gather around coffee. And so that's kind of where it started. I don't think I would have ever actually started the business. I just was looking around and I was like, oh, this building's cute. This would be such a, cute coffee shop. And then he was really the one that started to push me and say, why don't you start it?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Jessica was my accountant. She was my bookkeeper. And so as I was traveling for business, I also traveled to the West Coast a lot. I would keep my receipts for the different coffee shops that I would visit. And one day she was kind of going through my receipts and she's like, wow, I don't think I've ever met anybody who loves coffee shops as much as I do. Can I tell you about my dream? And so I've only really known her as, a bookkeeper, an accountant, and maybe a little bit about her, on a professional level. And then she really kind of changed and transformed in front of me as she started to paint this picture of what this coffee shop would look like and smell like, and the music that would be playing, and the way that she would design the space to have clean lines. I remember that was one of the phrases that she used, which I didn't even really understand what that meant. But just watching how she really came alive describing this, I kind of knew that I believed in her. And so when she got done, painting the picture, I said, "That's great. Our community does need this. When are you going to make this happen?" And she said, "Probably never. It's too risky. I've got a good thing going here. That's.
I don't like risk.
Yeah, I'm going to play it safe. I don't like risk." And for whatever reason, I was like, "That's not acceptable. I need to push you on this," because I was working with entrepreneurs at the time. And when you see someone who's got that X factor, you lean into it. And I told her, I was like, "I think this is maybe what you're supposed to do. So if it's about being risky and you need help, someone to balance out that risk, I would be willing to partner with you on this." And then, just kind of let it be there. And it was, I don't know, months later that she kind of circled back around and said, "You know what? I think I haven't been able to stop thinking about this, comment about partnering with me. So what do you say we look into it a little bit more?" And little did we know that would turn into a romantic connection as well. And we fell in love planning the coffee shop, and then it came time to choose the name. And you want to take over from here?
Well, that's kind of a disaster, but I was imagining like a honeydew melon, like the green color. And I was like, oh, that would be such a cute name. And at the time, I was thinking it made you think of fresh. And I was thinking it's going to be a cafe and we're going to have, fresh items. And so I was like, let's name it Honeydew Coffee. And he really fought me on it and was like, no, it needs to be Honeymoon.
I was like, look, I mean, we've fallen in love. This honey thing sounds cool. And there's like a honey drink that we really enjoyed as well. I was like, what about Honeymoon? And it, ties into our love story. And so the Honeydew Coffee Company is what we opened with in August of 2016. And a couple months into that, we actually got a cease and desist letter from a firm in New England called Honeydew Donuts, which is a regional donut chain out there that also features coffee. And they had the trademark on that name. And, coffee was sort of in the mix of what they offered. And so we talked to our lawyer, and he told us we might be able to fight it if we wanted to, but when you're, a startup coffee shop, you don't have a lot of funds lying around to, do a trademark or
you
copyright.
You acted like we had an attorney. We did not have an attorney.
We had a friend.
A customer came in that was an attorney.
Yeah. Our legal counsel, our legal services on retainer. No, but he gave us the advice that it would probably be better to change the name. And so I reached into my back pocket and said, "Hey, babe, remember this name that I threw out before?" And so it was also easy for us to kind of pivot from our domain name and our Instagram name. Like, it started with HONEY. So it was like, okay. And even the logo. So you can go to our website and sort of see how we evolved and modified all that stuff. But yeah, a couple months into it, the Honeymoon Coffee Shop was born.
And he gets to always hold that over me. But he was right. That was the better name.
I had a couple
and
good ideas.
It makes a lot more sense with us being in a relationship.
Quite the risk. But no, I love the backstory, and then also to getting us up to speed and having that belief in both of you, but then continue to persevere and transform the name, not just the name, but the vision and much more. Speaking of the vision, like you say, that the vision of the shop is, a place that someone could enter into, be inspired by, feel your own spirit, creativity, and energy. Like, what do you mean by that? Like, what's the vision, the value that's fueling the grind here?
Yeah, well, there are coffee shops and places that when you go in, you can be kind of overwhelmed by that brand or that company's insistence on this is how you behave and conform to what that that shop or business is trying to be. And then there are others that are sort of more inviting you to bring your energy, bring your spirit. You could kind of fill that with a lot of different words and ideas, but anything from artists who are coming in to work on their laptops to people connecting for personal or professional reasons. It's like we want you to come in and bring what you have. And so then our part of that bargain is making sure that it's clean, comfortable, that the music's at an appropriate setting, that the menu, is appropriate enough for people who like or don't like coffee, different dietary restrictions. And we know that what the person next to you at the table next to you is doing should positively affect what you're doing. And that can be sort of your responsibility as well. And so we just know when the coffee shop is buzzing and that people like it. And that's really what we've experienced in the last 9.5 years now, 8.5 years, however long it's been.
Long?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think how you make people feel is really important. And so we get to be a part of a lot of people's major life events. And that's awesome. Like,
tell the story from yesterday.
Yeah. I was in the shop yesterday and a couple was there with their parents and they told their parents that they were pregnant, and it was like very moving and everyone was crying and other customers were like cheering, and it was a really cool experience. And I feel like we listen to our gut. I always tell this story. In the beginning, we had a guy that came in and he was like, well, you need to paint your walls red because red makes people hungry and then they're going to buy more food from you. And I was like, I hate red. I'm not going to make it red. So knowing how to like follow your vision of what you want your business to look like is really important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, really well said, both Zac and Jessica, in terms of having that experience, but then at the end of the day, holding true to that vision value that leaves that positive impact on the customers you serve and the network and the community, and again, much more. I also want to talk on the branding too, with the crescent moon, obviously an important symbol for both of you. How did it lead into obviously the name change, but then also kind of create this branding and folks that whether they visit in person or have a connection via online or social media can resonate with?
Yeah. So the moon thing, Jessica doesn't love this part of the story because I'm kind of cheesy about it. But there was a song that we used to love to share with each other. It's called "Good Night Moon," and gosh, I can't remember the name of the artist. We can insert it here or link it or something like that. But we would sort of share this song with each other, and then at the end of the night, we're texting each other, "Good night, moon," or we would actually even use the emoji of the crescent moon. So I'd like send like the left-sided one, and then she'd send like the right-sided one, and so we had like this whole moon theme. And then once we landed on that name, it was like, okay, what else does this sort of unlock as something that's thematic? And so we have the lunar cycle that we can lean into, just about every month. So we have a special bubble waffle that we will feature every month on the lunar cycle. We have a newsletter that also gets released on the new moon. We call it the new moon newsletter. And then our podcast, we actually release on the full moon. And so just kind of leaning into that has been a lot of fun for me. I am high on meaning making, and so I will sort of make meaning out of whatever is out there. Jessica doesn't care as much about that, but we have
I get annoyed with it.
She's like, we don't have to have the podcast out today. And I'm like, yes, we do. Both of our listeners are really, counting on it happening. But it's something we have had some feedback from customers that also think that it's really neat and cool. And then, obviously the fact that the full honeymoon part of it does lend itself to relationships, specifically marriage relationships. And we've had plenty of couples that have had their first date, got engaged, come to visit for their honeymoon. And we, at some point, we'll mention that we added an Airbnb above one of our locations, and that's been kind of a neat wedding night,
Yeah.
honeymoon, kind of visiting, sort of
We've had a
romantic.
surprising amount of people stay there on their wedding night.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, it's incredible. But before we jump into in-person locations and whatnot, can you talk into obviously feeling our grind first and foremost, like the insights of your coffee sourcing and roasting process?
Sure. Yeah. Well, it's evolved a little bit. So when we started, we had to make some decisions on, who we partner with as a coffee roaster, or if we wanted to go, into it ourselves, right from the get-go. And we realized it was probably going to be too much for us to have expertise in running a coffee shop and roasting. But it was important for us to work with a local vendor. So we ended up doing a cold brew competition. We had about 6 or 7 different local roasters that submitted a bean for a cold brew, and we had the community come out and taste it, and we landed on 2 different local coffee roasters. One of the roasters roasted our drip coffee, and the other roasted our espresso, and that worked well for us for about the first 6 or 7 years, and then. Tim Piazza was the gentleman who owned Evansville Coffee Company. That was the roasting, one of the roasters that did our drip coffee. And he was going to retire, and we had gotten to the point to where we probably needed to look at taking this in-house, either developing it ourselves. But then with him retiring, we had an employee who had a lot of interest and potential in learning more coffee himself and having coffee as a career. So we paired them up, and his name is Ethan, and he is now the head roaster for the Evansville Coffee Company, which we acquired. And so we inherited a lot of his relationships with bean suppliers and farmers. And in the last couple of years, we've been exploring and adding some more farming partners. We took our first trip to Colombia with Ethan and his wife, whom he met working at Honeymoon as well. So there's another sort of, thematic honeymoon connection. So the 4 of us went down to Colombia last year and got to see the farms and the importers. And that's still the journey that kind of we're spending a lot of time with right now, is learning more about how we can improve the varieties of beans that we're offering for our customers and make those connections internationally.
yeah, I mean, that's been a really fun pivot that we've made in the last couple of years. But from a business perspective, I'm really happy that it's went the way that it did, that we didn't try to take all of that on in the beginning when we just didn't have enough experience. And Tim was a great teacher, so I felt confident that when we bought Evansville Coffee and we started roasting our own beans, that it was going to be the same quality that our customers were expecting.
Oh, that's incredible. Yeah, the connections and it like full circle, I guess, or full moon when it comes to, those meeting makers, but how you've built your team, but then also just having that unique story at the end of the day as well. Speaking of uniqueness, can you talk into more about, the wonderful slate of drinks, the menu, and then also talk into the locations as well?
Yeah. The seasonal drinks has become a big thing with customers. I feel like in every coffee, market. So we do that on a quarterly basis. We come up with, we have some like core drinks that people expect to come back every season. But we also are constantly looking at trends in coffee, and we've got baristas that love coming up with their own drinks anyway. So that's a great thing to like utilize your team if they are already want to be creative and they're doing these things on a daily basis when they're on shift, then get them involved in that process. And we've started doing that, and it's been really great. We actually have our top selling drink now was developed from one of our managers at one of our stores, and it's just become like a huge thing with our customers.
Yeah, we have a handful of signature drinks, so we try and keep on the menu year round, and then we do rotate into these seasonal drinks. And this one was so popular that we actually had to bump off another of the signature drinks to add it as a new year-round signature drink, because I think people would have rioted if we took it off the menu.
Yeah,
so
seriously.
There's a little bit of a balancing act of finding enough novelty and being able to allow your team to innovate as well as giving customers what they expect. And but so far it seems like we've struck a chord there,
Yeah.
and we
And
found the balance.
that's always tough too, because you have to be okay with disappointing people, because there's always people that you bump a drink off that was their favorite drink. And so like when you're talking about balance, I always think about that as well. It's like so many people like this drink, but there's also going to be people that are sad that you're taking this other one off. So you have to kind of get used to being able to handle those interactions with customers with grace.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, the business evolves. You've been, over 9.5 years. Perfect time we have folks on the show to celebrate the wins and whatnot. What would you say also too, like from a location perspective, like the relationship between Honeymoon, Evansville, Southern Indiana, that whole community?
Yeah, I think we have in our market. We there were probably a handful of shops that sort of came around at the same time. We had a little bit of a mini boom. So in between, when Jessica had that vision of, hey, we don't have coffee shops like this, others in our community also felt that same sort of thing. And you can always tell when you have a good idea if others around you are also having it at the same time. But it may be your turn to respond to that call and jump on it. So by the time we launched, there were now a handful of these coffee shops, and in the years since, we've grown to 4 locations, and I don't know if anyone else has really grown into a second location at this point. So we have tried to listen to our community, and it does seem like we've been embraced by the community, and we respond to nonprofits that want us to partner with auction items and give back nights, and just involvement on that level as much as we can. There is a lot of it, but we try and do that as much as we can. And yeah, we get comments from people as we've grown that they are proud of us. They're proud that this is something that is happening in their community, and they are rooting for us in that way that you would root for kind of a hometown team.
Yeah, we have two local universities, so we also have students that are here in Evansville for a 4-year span, but then they move away, and we often get them messaging us and saying how much they miss Honeymoon, and asking if we want to open a Honeymoon in Minnesota or wherever they're from. And so that hasn't been our vision yet, but you never know where it's going to go.
Mm-hmm. That's incredible. And then also too, what about the calling? Was the Airbnb, was that a calling as well, or how the idea came about? And I. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a lot of times we get approached with an opportunity. So this was one where we were approached by another coffee shop that was going to be, they decided they did not want to do this anymore. They wanted to know if we wanted to like take over their business. And it didn't end up working out with them, but it got our wheels turning that community needed a coffee shop. And Zach was asking me, well, if you could choose any building in Newburgh, what would it be? And I pointed out this building that was right on the river. So we have a walking trail and a river there. And so there's tons of just traffic all day long. And there's this little ice cream shop, and they were closed a lot, like at
Kind of a
least
seasonal ice cream shop,
yeah.
open maybe eight months out of the year.
Yes, they were closed all winter. And I was like, this seems like it's being underutilized here. If I was to choose a place, it would be this place. And so I decided to cold email the owners. I'd never met them before, and they didn't respond. And maybe like 6 weeks later, I got an email back saying, we've been thinking about retiring. Why don't we get together and see if this would be a good fit for you guys to purchase the building? And at our other 2 stores, we rented, so we never had the opportunity kind of presented to us. And it's just been a really great place that we were able to purchase. And then they had an office upstairs, and in that, what was just an office for their accountant, it was like a loft space we turned into a Airbnb.
Yeah, it had a little walkout deck that had this view of the Ohio River, and so it has like the sunrise in the morning, the sunset in the evening. You can kind of see this walking trail, and it was like this is it's probably great for that accountant who is doing stuff in there, but there's also some storage space. But we could, once we saw, it was like, all right, this would help us to justify the expense of buying this commercial property, becoming, sort of setting up another business for ourselves of actually now having commercial real estate. And so the Airbnb is able to generate enough revenue to pay the mortgage for the entire building, which then the coffee shop operates on the bottom floor. And that just became a whole new thing for us. And it wasn't the vision, but now
Yeah,
it's become,
we didn't
something.
set out with that to be the vision, but when we saw it, we both had a full body yes.
Yeah.
That will, this was the right path to go on.
Yeah, I think it's an additional added value, and also it just plays into and ties into the messaging and story. And when you're mentioning the location and what folks can when they do visit or stay, it's a great opportunity to one and indulge obviously at the coffee shop, but then two, have another added experience, whether it is part of their honeymoon or just a local stay or visiting in the area. So I think it's really well put together. I'm excited to see you all on this journey with that and the experiences to get bigger and better. Speaking of the journey too, so not just they lead the charge at Honeymoon Coffee here. You also have your own podcast we were talking about off air, the Honeymoon Coffee Company podcast. What can people who tune in expect from the show?
Yeah, so we just finished our second season of it at the end of 2024. So our first season was a lot of us just kind of going back and forth on differences in our personalities or perspectives. And so some of that sort of contrast. Like we have an episode called Form and Function that we got a lot of good feedback on, to where Jessica really, oftentimes wants something to look beautiful and pretty. And I will push back and say, yes, but this has to actually work and serve our customers, or, something like that. And then other times we'll flip hats, and I'll be like, we have to do this because it's beautiful. And she'll be like, look at the price tag. How are we going to, recoup the costs on something like that? So the first season's a lot of sort of that. And then the second season, we actually interviewed couples who maybe had a coffee related business, or maybe just a local business, but they had a relationship component that was also something we wanted to explore, and interviewed a lot of cool people from that. So that was most of season 2. And then this next season is really going to be focusing on the development of this new product that we have recently launched called The One, which is a coffee and relationship deepening ritual for couples, where we're sending them coffee at home to sample together and taste, and keep track of the tasting notes and those experiences, and then blend. So they get 2 single origin coffees, taste each one of them, and then there's an experience of blending them together and remembering the tasting notes for that. And then with each of those experiences, we also have conversation prompts for them to talk about how they have had to come together and blend their lives. And we're talking about how we've launched that and what people can expect, and share stories from that moving forward in season 3.
Yeah, and he made me do the podcast. It's not my favorite thing, but he always has to pin me down to do it, but I do enjoy it once I'm actually in it. But I just think it's funny because we work together all the time. We're together, the majority of every single day. And so we've learned to let each other have the thing that we're passionate about. So a lot of times we have to make a decision. And if Zach's really passionate about something and I'm just kind of mid, then I'm like, yeah, you take this one. Like, you're really passionate about it. And the podcast was one of those.
Yeah. And can I throw the question back to you, Kelly?
Sure.
Like, how have your seasons evolved, or have they evolved?
Yeah, really. Yeah, I love the reversal of roles. And as both Zach and Jessica, as you're talking through the experience in your background, I was like, oh man, you can tell right away you're co-host of your own podcast. But speaking of, yeah, it's like, oh, they already hit me up for the next perfect transition of the question of our topics here. But yeah, season one, throwback to 2019. Holy moly. I've had a lot more local guests or just friends or people that are very close on the business side, whether they started up their went full time with their own passion project, or I knew them as a coworker or one of my friends when I was based in Chicago. But we have definitely evolved leaps bounds. And now I interview people across the country, in person, abroad. We have a team now. But our topics, I would say we still love the founder stories, the origin ones, but we've cultivated a better conversation when I speak to folks on the show to really hone in and have this platform to voice their story and really inspire people at the end of the day. So it's been a journey as well. Yeah.
I love founders' stories and I still listen. I feel like when you're in a business and it's so hard and the grind and every single day you're waking up and focusing on it, listening to other people's stories is the best way if I'm feeling kind of burnt out or not creative to get those juices flowing again.
Yeah, and that I don't know if it's a part of our questions here, but we had a couple of bumps, big bumps in the road. Like we opened up a coffee trailer, a mobile coffee shop after our second location had opened, and so we had two brick and mortars, and then we went to a mobile, and it was so hard, so taxing, and we just were not in the rhythm of what a mobile coffee shop needs to be, and so it failed. And we ended up having to sell that. And then another time, actually, it was actually in the same year, we opened up kind of a half location. It was inside of a bank, and it was drinks only, not drinks and food. And because we were, being hosted by somebody else, we had to kind of abide by their rules, and we weren't able to create the vibe and the energy that we wanted to, and it failed. So we had a couple of failures along the way, but then they helped us sort of reinforce, what it was that our customers did respond to and what we knew that we would want to provide in the future. And then it was shortly thereafter that the building in Newburgh that became the coffee shop and the Airbnb happened, and then our new flagship location with the roastery was just a year after that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, talk about the timing, the journey. Even on the intro too, like the ebbs and flows of challenges that we face. What would you say, I guess both of you, Zac and Jessica, of advice giving to aspiring entrepreneurs, looking to start their own food and beverage brand, or starting a business in the competitive consumer market? Because as you mentioned too, like coffee, there's so many locations all over the place. How can sustain yourself in this market, even though everyone drinks coffee? But I mean, that is a challenge within itself.
I'd say the advice, and Jessica may have similar advice, is to really know what it is that you want and believe in, and that you will still care about when you have the inevitable bad days, bad weeks, bad months. And there's wisdom in asking for advice or doing research. But if someone gives you advice that doesn't resonate with you and you feel like you're doing it for them, or you're doing it because it's the right thing to do, I feel like that is a misstep. Now, with that being said, your customers are people who are important to listen to. And if you have one really loud customer saying, "Hey, give us the McRib, latte, year round or something," you might be like, "All right, that's wild." But if you have 40 customers saying, "Give us the McRib latte year round," maybe you listen to that. So my advice would be really know what you believe it needs to be, so you can ride out the low times.
Yeah, and if you're in a crowded market, you have to kind of really have that vision and know what value are you adding that's unique, that's different from what they already have in their choices that they already have. So, yeah, I mean, you just really have to be true to yourself and also be honest with yourself. Is this something that's actually needed where you are? And we look at that when people all the time ask us, "Please open a store here, please open a store there." And we're like, well, there's already 6 coffee shops in this little radius of, do they really need a honeymoon there? And so those are some of the questions that we also ask ourselves still to this day.
Yeah, it asking that question, what problem is this solving? And if it's just, solving a problem for you, the founder of, I want to have something fun to do with my time, that might not be enough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, these are key questions, Jessica, like what you mentioned, like what's your value add, and Zach, knowing what you believe in, but then also bring that vision to reality as well. I think these are great for our entrepreneurs tuning in today's show, whether they do have that passion project or they just started their business or looking to get the ball rolling. This is so critical in the early stages, but then also too throughout our journeys in accomplishing our short-term and long-term goals. Speaking of our journeys here with Honeymoon Coffee, because y'all both been in the business for we'll say 9 or so years. It's been like it's
Sure.
so long. What would you say you want your legacy of Honeymoon to be?
I think the legacy that's probably most important to me has to do with our employees and the experiences that they had. Like right now, we're recording this podcast, with you in the middle of of the week. Our 4 locations are open and operating and serving our customers, and so creating a team that feels empowered and taken care of. I think that's the legacy that I would like to have, is that our employees feel that the amount of time that they spent was a place where they could grow and develop and felt supported.
Yeah, I mean, we get our employees all the times say that, their favorite thing about working at Honeymoon is all the relationships that they've developed, whether it's with their coworkers or with customers. And we actually have provided a place where you could have coffee as a career, which before would only be at a chain in our community. So I think that is something that's important to us and that we're proud to have developed.
Yeah, like we had an employee who had a wedding shower not too long ago and posted the pictures on Instagram, and I was like, wait, they met at Honeymoon. Okay, their honeymoon. Like half of the people in her bridal party were people that she met, from her job, and that was just sort of encouraging reinforcement that this is a meaning. Your job is a meaningful time in your life and a way to have relationships that could, span even longer than your term at that employment.
Yeah, really well said. I love that you support both, not just personal growth, but the business growth as well to, again, continue on this journey, and best is yet to come. Like we'll probably have to get you back on the show or something, latest and greatest what's going on at Honeymoon Coffee, but you've made an impact, in people's lives, and it's cool to see those success stories. But I have to say that for another time, because we could probably talk for days on the relationships that have made, but then also to what customers have been doing, outside your shop too, and the full circle as we've said here. But yes, in closing, Zach and Jessica, we talked about your daily schedule. You have quite the grind going on at Honeymoon Coffee. What's on your daily grind later this year? Like what's on the radar for 2025?
You want to go for it?
I just had someone just ran into me the other day and they were like, it feels like it's about time for you guys to open up another store, because we last year spent the year working on our processes and kind of having the discipline of like saying we're not going to open anything new. We had just done 2 stores in back-to-back years. And when I was talking to him, I said, yeah, we actually have something in the works right now. So it was not something that we planned, but our neighbor next to us at one of our stores is moving out. And so we've been constantly running out of room. So we're going to be expanding one of our stores into another space that's going to make, it quite a bit bigger. And then what else do we have planned this year?
Expanding our roasting operations and the opportunities there. We do have a handful of wholesale partners and coffee shops that we support in our region. So expanding that is something that we have the capacity to do and interest. And part of that is kind of education. So when you're working with a newer coffee shop owner, they kind of don't know what they don't know. And so we get to put ourselves back in their shoes, advise them on maybe equipment purchases or menu development, whatever they feel like they need help developing, being at a stage in our business where we can give back a little bit.
Yeah, that's been really fun.
Yeah.
We've really enjoyed that.
Just speaking panels, like, at Coffee Fest, like those sorts of opportunities, being on the Daily Grind podcast, things like that are starting to happen. And it's neat. We're in our mid 40s now, and it's just, we know that we have experiences that we can give back and share, and we're happy to do that.
Yeah, we didn't tell them to say that on the show, folks. We appreciate Zac and Jessica for being on the show, and we're excited for you and your future. We wish you and your team all the best and continued success at Honeymoon Coffee here. As we say on the podcast, keep up the grind. Jessica, Zac, stories very inspiring on today's show. Do you have a word of the day to motivate our listeners out there, or even a quote, saying, mantra, like what's fueling your grind?
Oh yeah. Well, she's already mentioned it actually, or organically. It's the full body yes. So if you have a decision to make and you're trying to decide whether or not it's the right decision, like listen to your body. And for a while we'd even say, like, if it's not a full body yes, it's a no.
Yeah, that's kind of the phrase I feel like that we operate from, because we have had failures and we've learned from them, and when we've had a failure, it tends to be that someone was pushing us more to their vision and not kind of what we innately wanted for our business. Yeah. Again, going back to my advice earlier, you have to know that you're going to be able to ride it out through the low times. And that's true for marriage as well. Like, for better and for worse, but you make that commitment, till death do you part. And when it's a full body yes, you're going to be able to follow it through.
Mm-hmm. Words of wisdom by you both. I think that fits perfectly with today's show. What your story encompasses, what you're doing out here in the world, inspiring us on the Daily Grind podcast, but really motivating us and making sure that we listen to our body when it comes to making decisions, but then having that future outlook ahead. Last but not least, Jessica, Zac, if our listeners have questions, comments, want to get in touch with you, want to learn more about Honeymoon Coffee, want to feel their grind with y'all, how can they do so?
Yeah, our website's honeymooncoffeeco.com. We've got an Instagram. I'm pretty sure it's Honeymoon Coffee. Might be Honeymoon Coffee Co. They'll be able to figure out which one it is. We've got actually a great director of marketing right now who's been a barista with us for a number of years, and she's expanded it into TikTok as well. So you may not find us on TikTok, but Instagram account would definitely get back to us, and we're happy to connect with folks there.
Yes, thankfully we have grown to the point where we can outsource the things that are not our strengths, and marketing was one of them.
Wonderful. Yes, we'll put where to find Honeymoon Coffee in today's show notes as always. Thanks again for tuning today's episode. A big thank you to Jessica and Zac for being on the podcast. Thanks again for tuning to today's episode. In the meantime, be sure to follow us on Instagram, X, and Facebook at Daily Grind Pod, and follow our podcast on Spotify and Apple to stay up to date with all of our content and events. Links are in the description. Also, check out our new YouTube channel for exclusive content, including video interviews and highlights from our nonprofit events. Search for Daily Grind Podcast or just follow the link in the description. Lastly, head over to our website, www.kjfwi.org, to shop our merch. Thanks for supporting the grind, and we'll catch you next time. As always, keep grinding.
That's it for this episode of the Honeymoon Coffee Co. podcast. For all things honeymoon, including the new one subscription box for couples, visit honeymooncoffeeco.com. You can also find us on Facebook or Instagram. And of course, for more episodes of this podcast, search for Honeymoon Coffee wherever you get your podcasts. Cheers.